In this video, I'm going to talk about how minimalism has an impact on memory training. Let's go. Hi, it's Tansel here, 4-time Australian memory champion helping you learn faster and better. If you're into personal development, please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you think it's helpful. Now let's get started. Now I'm a big fan of minimalism. And the reason why I say that is the more you overload the brain, the more things you really have to worry about and the less things that get done. And it's the same thing when I've been training my memory. If I add too many things in there, what happens is that yes, it strengthens the memory, but it can also get overwhelming if I have to remember more and more things. So as a memory athlete, what we do is we don't make things super memorable. We actually make them really fast, quick memorizations of what we have to remember. And the reason why we do that is to minimize the load on our brain because we've got so much memorization to do, and we're also under time pressure. Now, a lot of people watching these videos, you might be under time pressure as well, whether it's at work or it's at home. Being able to be quick and effective is a really cool tool. Minimalism helps with that. Now, it's not always about being quicker, faster, better. Slowing down, which I'll do another video, and keeping things to a minimum really adds to the impact of that memorization. And it also adds to the impact and quality of your life. For example, if you've got 100 pieces of clothing, you're going to be ruined by choice, right? You're going to have a lot of choice and you say, oh, what am I going to wear today? Blah, blah, blah. But if you've only got 5 things, well, there's not much choice. So you end up choosing whatever there is. Now, what's the difference between them? Well, you might take a ton of time trying to select which out of the 100 to wear. It might frustrate you. Look, if it excites you, great. But the whole idea behind minimalism is about really working with what you value. If you value 100 pieces of clothing, then great, do that. It's not about decluttering as such. It's about keeping things that you truly value. Now, I don't value 100 pieces of clothing. I just value, clothes that I could wear on a daily basis. So that's why you see in a lot of my videos, I'm generally wearing the same stuff. It doesn't bother me. So minimalism, in terms of how the brain works, is really interesting because what you're doing with that is you're not overloading the brain and you're keeping things nice and simple. And when things are simple, then life becomes a lot easier to understand because you can encode it a lot quicker. You can't encode if there's 100 things onto your head. In fact, all that choice makes it difficult for us to move forward. If you've got 100 problems in your head, that's just going to weigh you down, isn't it? But if you just got one problem, then you're going to know how to deal with it, right? It's the same thing with memory training. If you've got a ton of different things that you're training on, well, it might sort of dilute the training a bit. But if you're just doing one thing and you're doing it really well, guess what? You're going to get better at it. When I work with my clients, I only try and just give them one thing to work on. Now, a lot of clients are really antsy and they want more, but I don't give more. I just give that one thing and get them understanding that the minimalism, the training that happens by concentrated effort, that's what gives them the results. Concentrated effort. Again, mindfulness and minimalism sort of come together there because what you're doing is that if you minimize something, you're more conscious of it, you're more mindful of it as well. Now, there is that element of awareness to mindfulness. So if you are conscious of that, then you can take full advantage of minimalism and memory. Another thing with minimalism is that when we're thinking of things and we've got a lot in our mind, minimalism helps to create focus. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say you woke up in the morning and you're thinking about your work day. And you might have this meeting, or you might talk about these things, or you might have to pick up kids, or you might do a ton of stuff, and it's all on your mind. Now, a lot of people get anxiety, and anxiety is one of those killers where you're creating stories that mostly aren't going to happen. So the trick with minimalism is that instead of focusing on the zillion things that aren't going to happen, you're only focusing on the one thing, right? You're focusing on one thing, and that could be the focus on the present, right? So if you're focusing on the present, that means you're not even thinking of what's happening forward. Now, granted, yes, some things are out of your control, right? You might have a court hearing later in the day, or maybe someone's passed away and you're going to go to a funeral. That's tough. But at the end of the day, the only thing you can really control is your mind, right? And your actions. That's the only thing you can control. If you minimize stuff in your brain, what you're doing is you're telling yourself to be in control, remain in control. This is the only moment you have now. How are you going to work with it? Are you going to start worrying about the future? Are you going to keep worrying about the past? Or are you going to focus on watching this video? Right? And that's what it really comes down to. Minimalism is really valuing time when you think about it. It's not just about valuing the amount of clothes you have or amount of furniture you've got at home. It doesn't even have to do with an amount, minimalism. It's got to do with what you value. Now, another example is some people value books, and they've got hundreds of books on their shelves, and that's great. Some people say, no, I need to get rid of my books because I can read on my phone, right? So they value that space. So think about what you value, more to the point. Yes, we're talking about minimalism, but as I said, minimalism is about value. So think about what you value and how you can put concentrated effort onto that. And the more concentrated effort you put onto one thing, then all the other things in your mind start to disappear. Because what you're doing now is, because you're concentrated, you're putting that effort in there. The more you do that, the more the things around you almost start to disappear. They're still there. Don't get me wrong, they're still there. But because your effort is concentrated, it's got focus now. And focus and concentration are different things, right? So look at that. What do you value? How can you put concentrated effort onto that? For example, I value time quite a bit. And if my time is wasted or something happens, yes, my initial reaction is I get upset. But the trick is obviously to know what to do when you're upset. So it's about management. Minimalism helps you to manage as well. So let's say you've gone through something and you're upset. Now, as I said earlier, we're fully in charge of our thoughts. Now, you get upset about something, what do? Look into your thoughts and think, okay, what's happening here? And you can list all the things, right, going on, and ask yourself the question, well, are these things true? Is it useful? That's a powerful question to ask yourself. Is it useful? What's one thing I can focus on now that'll help me? And that's what you focus on. For example, let's say you had a fight with a family member and you're feeling really angry and you're coming up with all this, the blame and whatever and blah, 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 blah. There's a million things running in your head. And then you start thinking of the future and, your relationships with this person and all of that stuff. Let's say you get into that, right? It's happened to me many times before, obviously, so I can speak from experience. Let's say that happens. Now, how could you get around that, right, using minimalism? So the first thing that I would do is obviously you survey the situation. Say, okay, this is what's happened. Here are the things. What are the facts? Okay, the facts are blah, 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 blah. Is it useful thinking about these things? Probably not. All right, what's one thing I can do now to not think about it, but just get away from this useless thing? And this is a really important question to ask. It's not about avoiding or moving away from what just happened or how you're feeling. It's about reframing your mind so that you can actually be more productive. Because like I said, it's not always about happiness and joy and whatever. We go through these problems so we can actually learn something. Is it useful? No. What can you do now? Well, you might, and this is just one way you can deal with it, you might write down how you could have communicated better next time. Or you might reflect on solving the problem if these situations ever arise again. So you go into problem-solving mode. Another mode might be that you're looking at ways to speak to that person again straight away. Sometimes not involving emotion helps as well. And the thing is, if you don't involve emotion, then you're going to get to the action straight away. So that's one way of using minimalism with emotion. And the reason why I connect minimalism to a situation like this is that you're bringing it down to just one thing. Instead of thinking of a million things, as I mentioned, anxiety, you can start creating so many stories and thinking about the future and all these possibilities. But the more you ask those questions as well, is it useful? What's the one thing I can do now? Bring it all down and then focus on that one thing. Then everything else that you're thinking of almost doesn't exist because now you're concentrated on your efforts there. And that's powerful. And you still acknowledge that these things exist in your head, all the other things you're talking about, but the more important thing is that in the now, you're in the now and you're thinking of solutions or you're thinking of moving forward, and here's how you're going to do it. That's minimalism and memory. I'll try and come up with some more examples of that because I absolutely love minimalism and it's got so much connection to memory, especially training a memory and connecting on deeper levels. I'll do more videos on that, so I'm not even sure how this video is going to come out. I'll probably edit this part out. But anyway, if you have any questions on minimalism or memory in general, the mind, the brain, all that sort of stuff, please feel free to message me, comment below, like this video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll try and get more of these videos out there. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next video. Cheers. What is yes, my initial reaction. You get upset about something